Okay. Starting with a quiz, and even though we're not physically in class today, I want you to work the quiz. See, if you can solve this equation, and if you can solve this equation. Now, this equation, you're going to need to factor. Okay. You're going to have to factor this and then figure out what to do from there. And then there's this equation, which you might or might not be able to factor. And then we're going to talk about something, a formula that allows you to solve an equation like this, even if you can't factor it. Okay, so for the quiz, solve this problem. Then if you have time, play around with this one. Okay, assuming everybody has finished. The first thing I need to do with this equation is make sure it's fully factored. Well, obviously, x plus 4 is in factored form, 2x minus 6. They're both linear expressions, just with the first power of x and a number. Okay? Now, this isn't factored. It's got an x squared in it. Turns out that x squared minus 9, if we go back to special products, is equal to x minus 3 times x plus 3. And then we have the other factors, x plus 4 times 2x minus 6. All these factors multiplied together are 0. X is a solution if x plus 4 equals 0, or 2x minus 6 equals 0, or x minus 3 equals 0, or x plus 3 equals 0. So if any one of these factors is 0, the whole thing is 0. And these are easy equations to solve for x. So we get x equals -4, or x equals 3, or x equals 3, or x equals -3. You notice we get x equals 3 twice, once from this factor and once from the x minus 3 factor of x squared minus 9. And then I leave myself a whole lot of room here, but right in the solution set consists of -4, -3, and 3. Now I only list 3 once because in a set, you don't list the same element twice. But we do note that this x equals 3 does occur twice, and that tells us some important things about the graph of this expression, but we're not going to talk about the graph of this expression in this course. That's something you'll encounter in pre-calculus. Okay. Now, x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0. Well, you just go back to your factoring skill, and you didn't get it. You can confirm that this is x plus 2 times x plus 3 is equal to 0. Well, this means then that x plus 2 is 0, or x plus 3 equals 0. Solution to this is x equals -2, or x equals -3. Solution set consists of the numbers 2, -2, and -3. So that's quite straightforward. Now, if you had trouble factoring this, you need to do more practice with factoring. If you can factor x squared minus 9, you need to go back and understand how to apply the special products. Okay. Now, this one actually factors, but it's a little bit of a pain to factor. And at least I think it factors because we're going to get integer solutions. If I've done it right in my head, we'll see. Okay. Actually not integer, but integer over integer. Okay. So we have this thing and we play around trying to factor it. Put a question mark there and just leave it at that. Here's a formula we can use to find the solution, whether it factors or not. And most quadratic equations don't factor. Now, this is also called a quadratic equation. So is this. It's quadratic, meaning it has an x squared as well as an x and a constant term. So the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, or it can be put into this form, and then this formula will apply. Let's see how that works. I'm going to write down our equation once more here. And under that, I'm going to write ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So it's obvious what a is. A is what's in front of x squared. So a equals 2. B is what's in front of x, that's 5. C is the number. Doesn't have an x on it. And c equals 3, okay? Now, if we plug these numbers into this formula, well, I'm going to ask you to do that. Stop, plug the numbers into the formula and see what you get. Plug the numbers in and simplify. Hopefully you've done that and you've done it correctly, but let's see how it works. Okay, x equals what? Negative b. Well, b is 5, so it's going to be negative 5 there. Plus or minus the square root of what? Well, we got b squared. And b is 5, so it's going to be 5 squared. Minus 4 times a times c. We'll write down the minus 4. Then we can multiply times a, which is 2, times c, which is 3. All that over 2a. There's the 2. A is 2, so it's 2 times 2. So we can come back up here. Instead of factoring, say that x equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 5 squared minus 4 times 2 times 3, all divided by 2 times 2. But if I do the arithmetic, I'm going to get a negative 5 up here in the numerator. I'm going to get plus or minus the square root of 25, which is what we're getting square 5. 4 times 2 is 8. Multiply that by 3. It's 24. It's the square root of 25 minus 24. And 2 times 2 is 4. This then equals negative 5. Yeah, I just don't really have room to write this. So I'm gonna write it here so it doesn't get confused. You can see that we're going to get 1 here, 25 minus 24, so we'll have the square root of 1. and we'll have the -5 and the 4 where they were. So this expression simplifies down to this. Now, you might well have gotten that if you did all the simplification, if you did the arithmetic inside the square root sign or under the square root sign, you would have ultimately obtained 1. And 2 times 2 would be 4, and -5, of course, is going to be there. Okay, so let's come over here. Well, the square root of 1 is 1. We have 5 plus or minus 1 over 4. Now, I haven't explained this plus or minus sign, and now it's time to use it. It means plus or minus. So the numerator could be -5 plus 1 over 4, or -5 minus 1. The numerator could be -5 plus 1, and that's divided by 4, or it could be -5 minus 1, and that's divided by 4. Well, -5 plus 1 is 4. And that gives us 1. -5 minus 1 is -6 over 4. And that's -3/2. So our solution set -3/2, 1. Now this actually tells us how to factor this, but I'm not going to go there right now. Let's go ahead and use the quadratic formula on x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0. Do as I said. Write out x squared plus 5x plus 6, just like I did here. Write out ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and x squared plus 5x plus 6 would be equal to 0. So write down the equation and the general form of a quadratic. That's what ax squared plus bx plus c is. Okay. Let's go ahead and write that out. It's the general form of a quadratic equation. We use that general form. Once we have it in this form, an equation in this form, then we identify A, B, and C and just plug into the formula. All right, take a minute, see what you got. Okay, the equation was x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0. Now, we've already solved that equation. We found the solution set was -2 and -3. Let's solve this using the quadratic formula. So we'll write A equals 1. What's in front of x squared? Nothing's in front of x squared, but that is the same as if 1 was in front of x squared. How many x squareds do we have? We have 1. So A equals 1. How many x's do we have? We have 5. So 5 tells us how many x's we have. It's the number in front of x, and that's B. And this should be, I wrote that down wrong. I wrote ax squared plus 5x plus 6. It's ax squared plus bx plus c. Well, I've identified A. If I confused you by doing that, then go ahead and identify B and C for me. Okay, well, hopefully you've paused and done that. B is what's in front of X, and that's going to be 5. C is the number that doesn't have X, and C is going to be 6. Solutions then are X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all divided by 2A equals negative B. B is 5, so put in negative 5. Then we have B squared. Well, that's going to be 5 squared. Then minus 4 times A, which is 1, times C, which is 6. All that's divided by 2A, which is 2 times 1. Well, this is going to work out a whole lot like the last one. Five squared is 25. 4 times 1 is 4. Multiply that by 6. It's 24. And you subtract that. So it's 25 minus 24 over 2. And again, it's going to be the square root of 1. That's going to equal negative 5 plus 1 over 2, or negative 5 minus 1 over 2, which equals 2 negative 2, or negative 3. The solution set could be written set negative 2, negative 3. Okay, well, let's do another example. Squared plus 4 equals negative 5x. Now, can you tell what A, B, and C are? Not easily, because some terms are on one side of the equation, some terms are on the other side. The standard form, the general form, has all 3 terms on the left-hand side. So we need to rearrange this equation to get all 5 terms on the left-hand side. So can you do that? Can you do something to this equation, some valid operation, add the same thing to both sides, subtract the same thing, multiply, divide, whatever? Is there something you can do that gives you an equivalent equation with everything on the same side and 0 on the other? Okay, hopefully you've done that. Well, people like to do this, add 5x to both sides by writing the equation 5x equals 5x with a plus sign just to emphasize it, so that we know that negative 5x plus 5x is going to give, well, I always advocate that we write out get on both sides without trying to do the arithmetic until we get here. Now the negative 5x plus 5x gives us 0. Now we got x squared plus 4 plus 5x. We really want it in the form something times x squared plus something times x plus a number. And that's easy to do because all we have over here is addition. So we could rewrite this as x squared plus 5x plus 4, which then equals 0. Now we can apply the quadratic formula. Please go ahead and do that. Okay, now to apply the quadratic formula, I like to write the ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 here and identify a. A is 1, that's a coefficient of x squared. B is a coefficient of x, that's 5. And C is 4. Then x equals what? Well, if you didn't get these numbers identified and didn't plug into the formula, plug into the formula now. Here's the formula. See what you get. Try to simplify it and see if you can get two solutions, just as we did down here. Okay, so x is what? Negative b, which would be negative 5, plus the square root of 5 squared. Okay, that's 25, minus 4ac. Well, that's minus 4. A is 1, c is 4. And then this is over 2 times 1. And then we simplify. And you should pause now if you haven't got the numbers in there. Pause and do the arithmetic and see how far you can get. In any case, I'm going to go on. 5, negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 minus 16. 4 times 1 is 4, and times 4 then is 16. That's over 2. So we get negative 5 plus or minus the square root of what? 25 minus 16 is 9. So negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 9 over 2, which is negative 5 plus or minus 3 over 2, which equals negative 5 plus 3 over 2, or negative 5 minus 3 over 2, which equals, well, negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. Negative 2 over 2 is negative 1, or negative 4. Negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8. Divide by 2, you get negative 4. So we can write the solution set as negative 1, negative 4. Okay, well, that's about what you need to know about the quadratic equation. There's just one more thing that we need to mention, so let's solve one more. I've been using a lot of pi's. I'll say x squared plus 4x plus 5 equals 0. Go ahead and solve that and see what you get. Okay, I'm going to follow my usual method. I advise you to write things out the way I'm writing them out until you're very familiar with everything, and then you can begin to adapt the way you do these. Okay, and you also want to write out the quadratic formula. So first of all, let's write A equals 1. B, coefficient of X is 4. C, the number. It's supposed to be a comma, and this is supposed to be a C. C equals 5. Okay, now, write out formula, because if you keep writing out the formula, you'll get familiar with it. There it is. And check yourself, make sure you wrote it out correctly, but don't copy it down from something you already have in front of you. Try to pull it out of your memory. By this time, you'll be able to take a good look at it, turn it over, then write it down. And pretty soon, you'll be able to write it down without having to consult anything or look at anything. Okay. We get B is 4, so -4. Square root of B squared, which is 4 squared, minus 4AC. A is 1, and C is 5. And then this is over 2 times 1. Well, that comes out -4. You go ahead and figure this out if you haven't already done it. Don't wait for me to write this down. Write it down yourself. In any case, 4 squared is 16. 4 times 1 is 4. Times 5 is 20. 2 times 1 is 2. And we get 4 plus or minus the square root of -4 over 2. Okay, the problem now is, you know that the square root of 4 is 2 because 2 times 2 equals 4. What would you multiply by itself to get -4? It couldn't be -2 because -2 times -2 is +4. Okay? In short, there's no real number that we can square, multiply by itself, and get a negative number. So at this stage, there's no solution. -4 is not a real number. Really, I should probably say no real solution. And I'm going to leave it at that. Open Math will probably show you if there is a complex solution, complex number solution. But I'm not going to confuse the issue with that. If you get the quadratic formula down, along with everything else we've done in the course, then with the assistance of the co-requisite support course, you would have a good shot at being able to perform decently in a pre-calculus course. Okay, well, this is the last topic that we're going to cover. Now, we've still got a week in which to review, and we'll probably start that. Well, we'll certainly start that in our next class. So good luck with the work on the quadratic formula. I don't think you'll have trouble with it. People usually don't. But if you do, email me or come find me and we'll try to figure it out. Okay.